So I would like to think like as a Black female photographer photographing other Black and brown people that I am contributing to the archive of our people in a sense. So I'm trying to make those that documentation and put it out there so that we have representation. And 20 years from now, someone can look back, whether it's on my website or from an article, whatever, and say like, this girl was out here taking pictures of us. Exactly, because it's like, if we don't take pictures of us, like who is? You know what I'm saying?
Who will? Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to Lavish Journey Podcast. It's your host, King Lavish. We down here in Cleveland, Lavish Studios right now with special guest here today, y'all, Miss Amber Ford.
Hey. Thank you for that introduction.
Anytime. She does photography. She's from Cleveland, Ohio. Her photography is actually beautiful. Like literally, you should go check it out. What's your Instagram?
My Instagram is Amber N.Ford. That's AMBERN.FORD.
Yes, check that out instantly. I had to bring it up instantly, y'all, because her photography is out of this world. So I'm pretty much going to let her explain to y'all what she does and everything, where she's from. Well, I just tell y'all where she's from. But I'm going to let her explain everything about herself.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
All right. So like you said, I'm from Cleveland. Grew up in South Euclid, which is a little suburb of Cleveland. Went to Brush High School. From Brush High School, I went to the Cleveland Institute of Art to get my bachelor's in fine art and photography. I graduated from there about 2 years ago, so 2016. Still kind of fresh out, I would say. Like 2 years isn't really that long time, so I'm still kind of figuring things out. But yeah, so I graduated from there with a photography degree. I dabbled in printmaking a little bit. So if you're familiar with my work, I've been doing screen printing, using my photographs, which has been a really interesting experience because it gives it a whole nother look. I would probably consider myself a fine artist, mostly,
okay.
that does commercial photography on the side for money in a sense. So CIA is a more, I would say, fine art / design kind of school. There's a lot of different majors, everything from photography to printmaking, painting, drawing, industrial design, biomedical illustration, regular illustration, animation, all that jazz, which is pretty cool. So people can like dabble in a lot of things. I chose to kind of dabble into printmaking and video because I feel like those two things correlate with photography very well. Video is just photography, just moving images, and printmaking, you can do a lot of photo-based work, which is pretty awesome. In my personal work, I do a lot of portraiture. I take pictures of people a lot. That's just kind of like what I kind of end up falling into. A lot of my work kind of centers around Black and brown people. So like my BFA defense was all about Black males. And I guess you can say, I guess you can describe it as their experience in a sense, and how they're portrayed in the media, and how they want to portray themselves. So my whole defense was photo-based and also screen printing. Since then, I've opened it a little bit more broader, and I've started photographing, Black females as well. I've done a small project on immigrants and refugees that have been resettled in Cleveland. And right now I'm kind of switching gears and going more towards making art about hair and beauty standards.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so you call it fine arts.
Yeah, fine art.
Okay, y'all. She does fine art. So that's pretty much, you do everything like when it comes like to art, photography, videography,
Not necessarily. Like, when I say fine art, I mean that my ultimate goal is to be in a gallery, sell in a gallery, be in a museum and things like that. So that's what I mean when I say like fine art. Like,
awesome.
Even though like I did video in college, I wouldn't, at least at this point, I wouldn't say I'm a videographer or a video artist or anything like that, because I really haven't dabbled in it too much. I haven't really had any projects that I feel like called for me doing a video. Like, like there's ideas that I'll have where it's like, oh, video may be nice, but I don't know if it's necessarily the medium that it needs to be in. So I haven't really done a lot of video, but Yeah, but like, yeah, so like you can call like painters, fine artists, drawers, and things like that. Unless they're doing it for more of a commercial reason. It just kind of depends on like what's it for, because we have commercial photographers, you have editorial photographers, you have documentary photographers, and things like that. So you have all these like different realms. So to describe photographers and artists, so you kind of have a better idea of what work they do.
I like that. So that goes deep. And you say like a lot of your photography portrays like kind of society a little bit, you said? Or?
Yeah. So I guess I can talk about my BFA for those who like don't really know or haven't seen it. So most, if not all of my BFAs on my website, but you can check out some of the images at www.ambern4.com.
Check it out.
In my website, I have different little tabs and things like that, and under projects there's one called In Between. So I remember having this conversation with someone during college, and I remember this person saying, it was a friend from high school, and I remember him saying, because he was coming back to visit from college, and you have the normal like catch up kind of conversation and things like that, like what's been up, blah blah blah, and he was saying like how his language kind of changed because a lot of people were dying, and you just would never really know when you come back home who would still be there, because anything can really happen. So he said that a lot of the times he would tell his friends, instead of goodbye, he would tell them to be safe, because he wouldn't know, like, if he's gone for a few months, like who else is like who may not be back when he comes back. So it was that kind of like conversation that kind of, I guess, trigger something in me to like switch gears on what I was making, because I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. I was like all over the place with making, I was like all over the place, like making my work, because like, when you're in college, you have projects. And so like each project, I was kind of doing a lot of different stuff and not really doing anything necessarily cohesive in a sense. Just trying to figure out like what would fit that necessary project, instead of like having a certain topic I wanted to talk about and figuring out from project to project, how can I talk about that? So that's kind of like a ramble, but yeah, so like it was that change in conversation. So what I wanted to do, because I was very interested in how Black people are portrayed in the media, and like the images that the media chooses to use, depending on the situation, and how there's always like, I feel like there's really two heavy sides of the spectrum. So you have like they try to glorify and put people on pedestals, like people like LeBron James, celebrities, athletes, and things like that. But then you also have the common man, and how a lot of times it can be a very negative image, even if it's not necessarily a negative story. They may use the worst image possible.
Oh my God, that's true.
Yeah. So I chose family and friends. I asked family and friends if they will allow me to photograph them, and if so, if they could choose the location that makes them feel comfortable, and to wear whatever they would wear on a normal day. So it was very important for me to let them kind of dictate the space and how they looked.
Right.
So I didn't really post them that much. Some of them I would just like really just have kind of like a conversation, and as we were talking, I would kind of start snapping pictures. And the most I really been like, oh, like how about you sit over here and I'll snap some and things like that. But nothing super, I feel like super directed in a sense. So that was really important to me, because I feel like a lot of times, within the news, whatever, like that doesn't get to happen. They're going to choose whatever image they can pull or whatever. And if it's not the best image, they don't care. You know what I'm saying? Like,
exactly. Yeah.
And it's like really sad how that happens, like, so yeah, so I kind of started to do that, and yeah.
Wow. That's deep though. I never thought about it like that. You is right, because every time I do see like the image of they posted somebody, it's always the worst one possible.
Yeah.
And they don't care. So you're just trying to bring more light out there. Sounds like more positivity.
Yeah, I would love to bring more positivity. I would love to give people more of a say so in how they're portrayed, and I like to say that because I don't plan on to stop photographing. If you go to libraries and go to archives and you try to find pictures, like really old pictures of Black and brown people, like sometimes it can be difficult. Like the documentation isn't there. So I would like to think, like as a Black female photographer photographing other Black and brown people, that I am contributing to the archive of our people in a sense. So I'm trying to make those that documentation and put it out there so that we have representation. And 20 years from now, someone can look back, whether it's on my website or from an article, whatever, and say like, this girl was out here taking pictures of us. Exactly, because it's like, if we don't take pictures of us, like who is, you know what I'm saying?
Who will? Shit.
So yeah.
I like that. So how do you promote your artwork?
Social media is a really big thing. So I try to promote by Instagram, my website. So on my website, I try to keep so the images themselves or whatever, updating those in a sense I'm kind of slow at, but I try to, at least when I'm having a show come up, make sure I put it on my website so that if people are randomly visiting it, they can see what exhibition is coming up and whatnot, or if I'm involved in like a panel discussion or anything like that, that usually is up on my website. Right. But and it sounds really funny, but Facebook is a really big one.
No, Facebook is.
Yeah. A lot of people in the art world still use Facebook because it's a good way to promote events, because you can make the event page, you can other people can share it easily, and then also you can invite people and things like that. So Facebook is a really big one on how I try to promote where my shows are going. Some galleries will print postcards and leave them around the city. Right. So, like if you're like a random Starbucks, you may see like, oh, like such and such gallery is having a show on this day or whatever. So some galleries still do that, flyers and things like that. Not everyone. Some people are more on the whole like paperless train, more environmental friendly. But sometimes it's nice to have that postcard, because then it's also like I can also just have a physical object to remember this moment in time where I showed at this space. Yeah,
because those events on Facebook start to load up after a while.
Yeah.
Definitely. So have you been, how many showcases have you been to? Is that the terminology for it? Showcase or?
Shows.
Showcases.
Yeah, it's all the same thing. Okay. There's like a million words to describe the same thing. I really didn't start showing until after I graduated. I think I was in maybe about 2, maybe 3 shows before I graduated in 2016. And since then, I would probably say that I've been in at least 10 shows, I would say. Awesome. At least 10. I've shown at, the most recent is a gallery called Seawall. That show actually opened up yesterday, May 18th. That's the Cleveland West Art League that's located on the first floor in the 78th Street Studio Galleries. That used to be the old American Greetings building. I was in a 2-person show there. Also yesterday I was in a group show curated by Liz Morgans, called A Dream Adrift, that is about refugees and immigrants, and she collaborated with the Refugees Collaborative Services to put on that show, and got a whole bunch of like really great artists. So those 2 were the most recent ones. I've shown at the Cleveland Print Room, which is a community darkroom located in the St. Clair Superior Arts District. That's different. Yeah. Zygo Press, which is a community printmaking shop. I've been in Gallery East, I believe it's the name, which is at Tri-C. Zana Gallery. I've been trying to show all over.
That's cool. I never personally been to like an art showcase. So what exactly is that? Like you just go there and you post your pictures up, or?
Yeah. So so have you been to a museum?
Yeah, I've been to a museum. Yeah.
Okay. So I would say a gallery show is like a museum in a sense. But instead of like this whole like big building or whatever, there's like one room, right? Okay. Yeah. Maybe there might be 2 or 3 rooms, but typically it's just space. Typically white walls where you'll, if you have 2D work and it costs to be hung on the wall, you hang on the wall. Some people may do 3D sculpture where it may be in the middle of the floor. And it's basically, you set up an opening normally. Sometimes people do a closing, but opening where you be able to invite people out to see the show. Usually they're always free. I have seen shows where they have cost. Right. But I feel like the shows that I see that are cover charge are thrown more by younger artists, because so they can kind of fund the show, like especially like if if you're getting a DJ, if you're getting food, usually they'll have a cover charge to be able to cover those costs, right. And to also maybe possibly sometimes renting out the space. But when it's a more established gallery, and sometimes those be like more pop-up shops, but I feel like more established galleries, I haven't necessarily had to pay any fee unless I'm entering into a show, like a juried show. So sometimes, they'll call for artists to enter work, and the fee may be like $30 to enter in like three pieces, which isn't like really terrible. It kind of sucks when you don't get in. It's like, well, that's $30 I'm not going to get back, but whatever.
Oh, so no, if you pay, you're not guaranteed a spot?
No, you're not guaranteed a spot. You're just guaranteed that your work is going to be looked at and considered to be in the show.
You take the risk.
Yeah. So I've done a couple juried shows. Some of them I've gotten into, some of them I haven't. And when you don't get into shows, you can't take it to heart just because it's like, it's not that your work isn't good. It just maybe just not have fit in with this show at this time. Or, maybe whoever was jurying it and judging the work and picking the work may just have been into other things in a sense. So you can't really like get hung up on that. But you can... Sometimes people get approached for shows, and I have gotten approached for shows. I've also sent in proposals to a gallery. Like if I wanted to show in a gallery, I may make a small proposal like, this is the work, this is what it's about, and just saying that I would like to show in your space or whatever. And that's kind of what happened with the show at Seawall. I sent in a proposal a couple months ago. And places like this are always really accepting proposals for artists. And another girl sent in a proposal, and after viewing her work and my work, they thought it would look really nice together. And so that made our 2-person show.
Right.
They invited us to show. We both accepted. And so that opened up yesterday, May 18th. And it'll close June 15th. So what's West 78th is a little bit different than some galleries. That it's a really big warehouse, and it's typically everything is open the third Friday of each month.
Right.
And everything else is like usually by appointment. I think some galleries are now opening the third Sunday of each month too.
Okay.
Don't call me that. I don't know. You gotta look on the website. They switching it up. They switching it up a little bit, but so it's like the third Friday of each month, and it's usually a really big turnout just because it's been going on for so long. A lot of people do come out. But even though a lot of people do come out, I still try to personally invite people if it's not through via text message, via Facebook or email, just because it's like sometimes people aren't super into social media and don't get their information from there. So sometimes texting people and also sometimes just emailing people is a really nice gesture.
Be more direct.
Especially because how social media is, with Instagram, things are not posted in order anymore. So it's like, I can post something and you may not see it until 4 days later.
Literally.
But the event may be over by then. You know what I mean? Which is really shitty on like Instagram's part because like you're kind of fucking shit up a little bit for people.
Instagram I use for business now, what I mean, personally, so yeah.
Yeah, and it was like, I feel like it was just a lot more, you knew you were going to reach people when the timeline was in order, and now it's just like, you don't know,
later.
And then it's like, they give you options to like pay to promote and things like that. I mean, it's a business too, whatever. So, they go try to like make their money how they can or whatever. So they got all those, like those new options and things like that. But, no, but I mean, it was a good turnout. It's good to, have friends and family come and then also see new faces and people that you don't know, ask about your work and you explain it and things like that.
That's cool. Have you thought about like hosting your own event or something?
I haven't. I've had 2 opportunities to have a solo show, and I would say that's probably the closest thing I've gotten to, I guess you would say, hosting an event. But not really in a sense, like not like necessarily like a big thing. I'm good at planning to like a certain extent.
Right. I feel it. Yeah. I totally understand.
But I did. So like the first time I had a solo show, it was showing this body of work called By Force and By Choice, which is about immigrants and refugees and how people are displaced and how some people have a choice to leave their homeland and some people do not have a choice. And that conversation and photographing some of the individuals that have gotten resettled in Cleveland to, I guess, more humanize. I feel like this word that there are individuals obviously in our society that have a certain kind of feel of immigrants and refugees and feel like they are not people in a sense, which is a really kind of crazy thing that someone can legit like call someone an animal or someone can like, because they're from a different country, they speak a different language, they have a different culture, that they are less of a person or whatever.
Right.
And so like I wanted to, in a sense, kind of do the same thing as my previous show, where like I was photographing most of them in the home, because it's like being in the camera is a very interesting thing, and if you're not used to it, you can be very awkward, myself included. I'm behind the camera most of the time for a reason. So photographing people in familiar spaces to them helps them feel more comfortable, which then produces a more organic image, right? So I photographed them, most of them like in their homes, and a lot of them I would just ask them to like, if I wasn't here, what would you be doing?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, do that now, and I'm just gonna photograph around.
Make them comfortable as possible.
Yeah, it's like pretend like I'm not here. Like if you normally be cooking, like then cook. You know what I mean? And I'll just photograph around you, because it's not necessarily always have to be a pose picture. Sometimes it's like those in between moments when people are doing things, or like guards. Also the off guards are really beautiful. So, that was kind of like the first exhibition I got to do as a solo show. Which was really cool. And then me and the person who owned that gallery then organized a fundraiser after the opening, to then donate back to an organization that helped me find some of the individuals. Right. So that was like the first and only time I feel like I can say that I've like actively hosted an event. And it was cool. Like we had like a couple people come and play live music. We had a person do some poetry. Two of my friends also had a table where they sold zines, so they made money, and then they also helped us with our calls and donating. So I think, if I'm not mistaken, we also had a raffle, so people bought raffle tickets, and then that money went to the organization. And then that particular event, I only sold one print, but whatever was being sold, half of that would go back to the organization. So I think we raised about $500, which was
that's
really
real
nice.
good.
Yeah. So that was a super exciting experience. And because of that show, I got to show someone who saw that show, who is the gallery director at the temple in Beechwood, the Jewish temple. She invited me to show it there.
Right.
And we had like kind of like a panel discussion and a gallery talk and things like that. And we had a little like another activity night where I did some stuff with some of the families in their congregation, and that show resulted in a lot of people who go to the temple who started volunteering at the Thomas Jefferson Newcomers Academy on the West Side. So that's where a lot of like new like immigrant and refugee children will start off school. Before they like maybe go to like a regular school. Just to be able to help them better, I guess you can say, transition into our city and our culture, which is very different from which is very different, because like people come from Nepal, people come from Afghanistan, people come from Africa. Like we have people all over. In Cleveland.
Where's this located at?
Where the temple or like the school?
The school.
The school is on the west side.
Okay.
I want to say the Lakewood area.
I never knew about that.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, doing this project, I definitely like learned a lot. I definitely came across some things that I guess I wasn't expecting or really ready for, like like the language barriers and things like that. And like these people are trying really hard, taking English classes every day to be able to better communicate. And a lot of these parents are relying on a lot of their children to communicate for them until they are better, because it's like kids learn a second language younger a lot easier than an adult. So a lot of times when I was visiting these families or whatever, it's like I would kind of have to talk to the 8-year-old daughter
to talk to the parent.
So to make sure that they understood clearly in a sense, or if there were still like somewhat of a disconnect where they weren't understanding what I'm saying, I'm allowing them a result to Google Translate, which is really funny. It's like, okay, like we'll tell Google. Hopefully now you understand. So that showed last year, last spring, and then also like in the fall.
Awesome.
Yeah. So
wow, you really out here.
Yeah.
You learn about a lot of stuff throughout this, I see, and different. Yeah,
I'm trying.
Breaking out your shell. I respect that. So, like, what influenced you to get into fine arts and photography, everything? Like, what inspired you? Or
I would probably say it all started in like my high school education. So Brush has a pretty decent art program.
Yeah.
And you know they had I'm not exactly sure how many classes they have now, but when I was there, they had a really nice selection.
Yeah.
Everything from photography, painting, drawing, ceramics.
Oh, you're right. They did.
I think they may have had a jewelry and metals class. I know they had like a wood shop class. They had graphic design. They also like video class. Like that's a lot for like a high school to like have all those options. So while I was there, starting freshman year, I started photography, and I did that all 4 years. Sophomore year, I think I started to do painting. And maybe junior year, I maybe started to do drawing. And I don't know if it's because I started photography first or photography. I knew that I wasn't the best drawer or painter. And I just became better at photography. That just ended up what I ended up falling into. And I was the type of student where it's like I did like decent. I wasn't like the smartest. I wasn't necessarily the greatest. I wasn't necessarily in love with school, but I knew it was something that I had to do. And as a child, like that's my only responsibility is to do well in school. You know, I ain't gotta pay bills. I ain't gotta take care of no kids. You know, so it's just like, you know, my mom always like this is what you have to do. Like you don't have to do nothing else. Like if you get good grades, like we're good. You know, so. You know, I did that, but it's like I still wasn't in love with any of the subjects. You know, I really wasn't in love with science or math and things like that. So then it came down to like, if I'm going to go to school for another 4 years, and if I'm going to pay or get loans or, you know, take this time to get scholarships, what am I going to go to school for that I'm actually going to be happy with? Because it's like, I don't want to be miserable for 4 years. You know what I mean?
It's something that you love.
Yeah. So photography, when I like asked myself, like, what can I see myself doing for a long time or the rest of my life, I knew it had to be art related. And then I decided that photography would be the best option. Just because honestly, like, even I really did like painting, in reality, I had to ask myself, like, are you going to make money in painting? You know what I'm saying? Like, what are you going to do with a painting degree if you went into painting? You know what I mean? And seeing that I mean, you know, of course, like, just like photography and everything else, it takes practice in a sense. Because I felt like I was better in photography, that it was just a smarter choice for me in a sense, because there were also a lot of different options to do with photography. Like, I don't know exactly what I wanted to do in photography, but you can do everything from teaching photography to doing commercial, doing editorial, you know, trying to do stuff for magazines and advertisements, to you know, teaching like at the college level, high school, after school, doing wedding photography, you know, senior pictures and things like that. And even like as being a photographer, you can also get into other things like styling or, you know, being a producer where it's like you're organizing the shoots and things like that. Do photo assisting because, you know, photographers always need assistants and things like that, you know. So... yeah, so like, you know, after, you know, talking with my teachers and things like that and kind of like doing some research of like all the options, you know, it just seemed like a good avenue to go towards because I knew like if I tried something and I wasn't like completely in love with it, like whether it was teaching or doing web photography, it's like, well, there's a bunch of different options that I can then just like try. You know what I mean?
I'm glad you found your path with that because you're flourishing with it, honestly.
Thanks.
That's good because a lot of people go to college for shit they want to go for.
Yeah.
They end up fucking miserable for 4 extra years, like you said.
Yeah, it's like we already been in school for like 13 years. If I'm gonna go for more, like I would like to not hate my life.
I imagine. So, what was the first camera that you purchased?
The first camera that I purchased was a Canon 5D Mark II. I didn't purchase my first camera until I was a sophomore, junior in college. Yeah. So I purchased my camera pretty late, but I go into Brush. You have. It's really nice because you can check out their cameras, you know, so you don't have to necessarily buy a camera. The school provides the camera and like they let you borrow it. And then also with CIA, they have this thing called the checkout center, where or the equipment checkout, where they accumulate equipment and students have the opportunity to check it out for a 24-hour period, or if you check it on Friday, you can check it out for the weekend. So it's really nice because it's like a lot of the things that we're using are really expensive, and it takes time to save up and be able to purchase your own. So to be able to
that's smart.
Borrow it from the school for free, and the only time you really have to pay, like if you turn it back in late, then there are late fees. They're like ridiculous. It's like $5 for the first hour, and every hour after that's like 25 cents. So it's pretty reasonable, but it's holding you accountable if you don't check it back in time, because it's like, because you could potentially fuck somebody else shit up. You know what I'm saying? Like if you have your booking until 3:00 and you supposed to return it, and someone else booked it right after you at 3:05. If you return late, then now you have to
push back their time.
Yeah, so it's like you gotta have the late fees to hold people accountable and to, I guess, motivate them to return it, because like if you don't, then people are just gonna be like, oh, I can just return it whenever. It's like nothing's gonna happen. But yeah, so like the Canon 5D Mark II is the first one I purchased. The first camera I used, though, seriously, I mean, like families always have like point and shoots and stuff like that. And I don't remember like what my family, what my like parents had or anything like that. But when I got seriously into photography freshman year of high school, I used a 35mm Pentax K1000, which is a super nice camera. Like if you're looking into doing 35mm camera and learning that, I think the Pentax K1000 is one of the best cameras out there. Just because it's very simple, it's very easy to use, and I feel like if you know how to use that one, then every other camera should be pretty damn simple for you.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that was the first one I used in high school, and I did mainly film all during high school too. It's actually kind of fun. I didn't really start doing digital until I got to college, just for the convenience. Word. Yeah. It's like like people have like the point and shoot cameras to use for like family vacation and capture moments around the family. But during high school, like I even though I had the option to do digital, because I did film for the first like 2 to 3 years, digital and color too. So I was doing black and white film. So like color photography or digital photography is like a whole weird world that I really wasn't trying to get into. But in college, you kind of like are somewhat forced in a sense, unless you are very good at time management, just because it is a very timely process, and it's just as costly as buying a $3,000 digital camera in a sense, with the film camera, you have to constantly buy film. And with the rolls of film, like 35mm, you can get rolls that are like 24, 25, or to 36 pictures. Right. Medium format, which is a different type of camera, you may only have 10 to 12 pictures. And then if you go to large format camera, you don't have a roll of images or a negative or negatives. You have one sheet negative. So it's like every sheet is one image. So, and that's like a whole
whole new world.
Yeah, that's like a whole other thing. But and then it's like if you then you have to take the time to develop it, and if you're not developing yourself, you still have to take the time to at least send it some or drop it off to places like like Dot or something like that to develop it, pick it back up. If you're someone who prints in a darkroom, that takes a lot of time. Or you can scan it in and print them digitally, which I have done once I got into the college level. But yeah, it's just a lot. It's a long process, and even though I love it, when I got into school and I had the option to do digital, I kind of like started like after I took my film classes, just because it's like if you take in 6 classes, 4 of those classes are studio classes, which are 5 hours each. Like your half your day is gone. You're just in class half the day. Luckily though, sometimes they do give you studio time, so where it'll just be a work day, so you can work during your class period. But like good. Sometimes you don't have the options, and you still got to do it outside. But then it's like you got your liberal arts classes. If your teacher giving you 2 chapters to read in 2 days, it's just
it piles up.
Yeah, so you gotta definitely manage your time well, in order to stay afloat, because it's really easy to fall behind. Or to result into making shitty work in order to get the project done. And you don't really want to result to doing that, because everything that you make in a sense or whatever, like, don't get me wrong, like everything is not going to be a great idea. Everything is, the outcome, it may not be great, but you still want to try your best into making your best work, because like that work can be in your next show, or someone can see that and then maybe want to commission you, or it's just, or, and you're always like you're trying to build up your portfolio, and you don't, and you're only, so they say this in art school, you are as good as your worst image. So if you have a portfolio or your website, and only half of your stuff is good, people are not necessarily going to judge you on your best thing. They're going to judge you on your worst thing, because that's what you're putting out there. So you know what I'm saying, like they can have the thought of, maybe this really good image might have been a fluke, because like this image is, ain't so great. You know what I'm saying? So you gotta always want to like try to like, whether it's your website, social media, all that, like I would suggest like any artist, like always try to put your best foot forward and always, you know, try to manage your time well so that you are also producing what you set out to produce. Like some people may settle for less because it's like, oh, like I'm in a time crunch, you know, I'm gonna just throw this little shit together and just call it a day or whatever. But you know, you're really only cheating yourself at that point.
Exactly. Throwing out bullshit. You get what you throw out. You put out there.
Yeah, exactly. So
wow. Okay.
Yeah, so that's like some food for thought for y'all.
Yeah, you literally just schooled me on so much stuff about photography. Like it goes deeper than just getting a camera and taking a picture. I see.
Yeah, and I try to like tell people that. And it was funny because saw, you know, like Instagram got the memes and stuff like that, and there was this meme and there was the picture of the camera button, right?
Yeah.
And the caption was like, everyone's a photographer until you put it on this setting, and it had the setting on M, which is manual, because it's like it's really easy to, you know, take pictures on just auto and the camera just do
manual is tough.
Yeah. Like and that's what I'm saying. Like the Pentax K1000 was a really nice camera, because. So like even like Canons, Nikon, Sony, they have these bells and whistles. Like they have like so many buttons, and you'd be like, what does all this do? In reality, in my opinion, if you know what the ISO is, if you know the aperture, and the shutter speed, and then I guess white balance too, in a sense, with the digital cameras, like that's all I say you really need to have a good image, and then also knowing that camera raw is going to give you the most information to be able, like, if you're someone who prints stuff out, you know, that's going to give you the most information to be able, like, to print something out like this big, you know. If you shoot in JPEG, you know, like,
JPEG it look a little fuzzy.
Exactly, because it's like a compressed file. But I was always tell people, like, if you know those 4 things, and if you don't know nothing else about your camera, if you know those 4 things or whatever, I feel like you are capable of making a great image, because like that's really what's important or whatever. Because a lot of people think it's the equipment, but in reality it's the photographer, and the photographer know how to use it. So like if you don't know how to use your equipment, then you may not be like producing like the best work, because like when you're a manual, you have the most control. You know what I'm saying? Like even if like the camera may say this is the best exposure, you know, it may not be like what you're looking for this particular, you know, shot or project or whatever. So it's like knowing manual, you can have a lot more control, and then it's like, you know, then, and really, like, I feel like it's kind of like when people talk about like fitness, where it's like 20% gym and like 80%, you know,
your
eating,
diet
diet. I feel like with art, you know, it's kind of like that weird kind of thing where it's like, I wouldn't say that's 20%. I would say it's more than 20% of making art, but then it's like it's also just putting yourself out there and marketing yourself, and to get people to see it and things like that. If you want to be seen, because some people just make art for more of a therapeutic kind of, just for themselves. But like if you want to be seen, then it's like that's also like a whole big thing, you know, and getting people not just to see your art, but to also see your face, and to be able to know your name, and to be able to like, oh, I know who that is, you know. They see your name, it's like, oh, like I remember you know, kind of thing. So it's like, so like I try to go to shows, you know, and also it's like it's courtesy in a sense. It's like, you know, like I want people to like my work to come support me, so like I'm gonna support other people too. Of course, like, you know, so I try to go to other people's shows, because it's a really warm feeling when you are at your opening and there's a room full of people, regardless if they're like buying stuff. Like, of course, it's really nice when people buy stuff. Like, it's, you know, ooh, I can pay a bill now. But it's like, but it's also, you know, just nice to have people just come out and just really just want to talk to you about it, and just like, you know, and then also you can get other people to connect with other people as well. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, so like I try to go to shows, you know, openings, gallery talks when I can. You know, I'm not always able to, you know,
of course,
but you know, when I can, I will, in a sense. That's you know, because there's a lot of galleries in Cleveland. You know, there's 78th Street, which is like 4 floors, like where there's a warehouse, 4 floors, just filled with galleries. And they also have like booths and like that. So like not just people are showing art, but people are like, you know, someone I graduated from high school with, I can't remember the name of her, but like I remember she had a table in one of the spaces, and she sells like natural like shea butters and scrubs and things like that. So, you know, people may be making jewelry and, you know, all those things. So that gives other artists opportunities to sell their stuff and to get themselves out there. But, you know, there's like you know, like even American Greetings, you know, has like their own gallery, you know, over in Crocker Park. There's a bunch of galleries over in the St. Clair Superior Arts District. You know, Shaker Heights has a gallery, Beechwood, Tri-C, you know, all the institutions have have galleries. You know, Cleveland State has a gallery too, downtown. So like there's a bunch of,
there's a lot of them out here.
Yeah, there's a bunch. And then also just like, I don't think people realize it's like you don't always have to show in a gallery space. You know, people show in different spaces. You know, like I've been to a show at a bar. You know, it might have just been a pop-up show, but like, you know, people, whatever, and like not everyone's work should be in a gallery space too, in a sense. Like some people, you know, may have house shows. Like I've been to house shows where it's just more of an intimate setting. You know, sometimes, you know, people may have a show like outside or something like that. There's just one house, I don't remember if it's Cleveland Heights or Shaker, but they have a sunroom right in the side back-ish of their house. And in the summer, the warm months, they use that as a gallery space.
That's cool, yeah.
And it's like, it's literally just someone's home, here goes the gallery. It's
right.
like, you know, on a random street in this suburb. And it's just like, you know, so people are definitely can and are being creative in like how they're getting their art out there and where they are showing, which is, I think it's pretty dope.
That is dope.
Yeah.
That's really dope. So do you find networking is like very important when it comes to, you know, photography and everything? Yeah,
I do. I think it's a super important part to know, not even just like networking with other artists, networking with gallery directors, networking with collectors, and not necessarily in a sense where it's like you're always expecting something out of them, but it's like nice to have a network. Networking is also creating a support system in a sense, you know, not just like, you know, trying to find people that's going to buy your work, but people that, you know, that you can talk to, you know, like someone that I can set up a studio visit with. Like, you know, I'm creating this new work, and because I've been out networking, I've been meeting people, these people have become friends, and I can now hit you up and like, hey, like, can you come visit my studio? And I want to talk to you about some work I just made or whatever, because I need to get someone else's opinion. You know? I need to know whether or not the idea I had when making this work is actually coming across, or if it's not, then like, what can I do to make it come across in a sense or whatever. So yeah, I think networking is good in a lot of different ways, and just in general, it helps to get you like when you're out, and it's a lot. I don't really necessarily even like the word networking or whatever, because it can sound kind of like not cheesy, but it's like a weird kind of like realm. So in a
what word you use for it?
I don't know.
Just meeting people. Or...
Yeah, because like, so there are like networking events, right? But that also just gets like those things like that or whatever, or just going to gallery shows and talking to people, gets you more comfortable. With interacting with other people and talking to people about your work or just about art in general. Because, you know, sometimes, you know, I can't just put stuff up on the wall. Sometimes the gallery may want me to do a talk. And talking to a crowd, like, it's like one of like my fears. Like, I do not really like to talk to a crowd. Like, I get super nervous and super swayed, and I'm just like, oh my God, I'm dying. I got you. But like being like having gallery shows, even if it's not mine, but just going, just talking to people makes it easier, you know, because it's like you get more practice, and you know, it's just like becomes just more of a second nature in a sense the more that you do it. That's good. So are you developing your skills with that? You know, getting better and better? I'm trying to, yeah. It also helps. I mean, like, it's not the worst thing in the world. I feel like I just always trying to make it out to be sometimes, just because it's like, it's just always like just talking like in front of like large crowds has always just been like kind of like a hard thing for me to do. But it's just like, in reality, if you're talking about your work, you should know what you're talking about. So it should make the conversation easy in a sense. You know what I mean? And then if you're talking about somebody else's work or whatever, you're really just listening, and they're kind of telling you. Like, yeah, there's the back and forth dialogue, but that's more of your time to kind of sit back and like let them tell their kind of spiel, or, you know, what it's about. You know, even like you may have these preconceived notations or whatever, what you thought it was about. But, you know, at that time, it's like if you're talking to the artist, like they're telling you, and you're like, you're just listening. You know what I'm saying? So. Okay. All right, I got 2 more questions for you, then we all set. Okay. All right, one of the questions is, what's the first thing you think about when you wake up? One of the first things I think about when I wake up, I would probably say is I don't know if this is like a great answer, but like
Hey,
really like
any
my
answer is
schedule for
good.
the day. Like there's some people like don't realize, and like I don't want it to come off weird, but like I'm pretty busy in a sense.
Hell yeah.
So I like if I didn't have my phone, I honestly wouldn't know what to do because like I write everything in my
Your notes and
calendar.
everything,
Yeah.
yeah.
So like every day, like, and I have to constantly remind myself because like there's like some weeks where I'm just like it's Wednesday, I think it's Monday, and I'm just like all over the place. Like so it's like I have to write everything down. So like that's one of the first things. Like okay, like other than just like work, like am I supposed to have a shoot later on?
Right.
Do I have a meeting later on? Like so that's like one of the first things that kind of like I guess crossed my mind to make sure I am keeping myself on track and I'm not missing anything. And if I have like a meeting or something like that I'm not mindfully like blowing it off because I forgot in a sense. So that's super important to me because like I have had it's a really shitty feeling when you realize you forgot to meet someone in a sense or whatever, or like you're late or something like that because like you forgot. So it's just like trying to like stay organized, doing to-do lists and things like that, and making sure that the important things are in my calendar where it's like I know I have to be here this day at this time. And that's like one of the I feel like first things that every morning I kind of have to go through to make sure that I keep myself on track.
That's good though. That's good. At least you keep everything organized.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm all over the place.
Yeah.
I ain't gonna lie, I feel it though. Okay. And what makes a great life?
What makes a great life?
Yeah, a good life. It's which way you want to answer it, honestly.
I say doing something that makes you happy and also giving back while if you can give back while you're doing something, I feel like that what makes a great life. I've never been the type of person who's like, I'm going to do this job because it's going to make me the most money.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to do,
money's material.
Yeah. So I feel like if I'm doing something, if I am living comfortably, like my bills are paid and things like that, I'm happy. And if I'm doing something that makes me happy, then I'm fine. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like more people, like I feel like a lot of people are focused on the wrong things in a sense. And they think that these materialistic things are what's going to make them happy. And then even if they do achieve them, they realize like there's still something missing in a sense. So figuring out whether it's that activity or finding that person or, figure out what makes you, what you enjoy.
Right.
And then I guess figuring out like how you can make money off it, like in a sense or whatever, and that's why I chose like photography because like I like taking pictures. There's some days where I'm frustrated where it's just like I want to put my camera down, but that feeling isn't never a permanent feeling. Like some days my images may not come out how I want to, and then so then I have to reevaluate. Well, it's like okay, well why this didn't come out, was it, and what can I do better next time in order to get my outcome in a sense. So it's like always like a learning process in a sense because even I've been doing photography for, if you want to start from like when I started like in high school, like I've been doing it for 10 years, like if you want to start from then. So but they're always, because I'm always taking pictures in a different setting with different people, it's always like a new, I guess, problem that I'm solving, like how do I approach this? Because this is not the same from anything else I've done previously, in a sense. Yeah. I hope that answered the question.
That definitely did.
Okay.
Follow your happiness. The money will come along. I be telling people all the time, like, you chase some money, you're gonna end up being miserable forever.
For real. Exactly. Like, but I feel like a lot more people are kind of figuring that out in a sense, like, I'm seeing a lot more people, even like if they're in college and they're doing one degree and they realize like I hate this and it may take me 2 more years to graduate, but I'm going to switch because I know I'm going to be happier in this field. Because it's like, would you rather do 2 more years of college to pursue something that you're going to actually want to do and then be happy for the rest of your life, or continue with this degree, be done quicker, and then just be salty every day, waking up, having to go to a job that you hate, having to do whatever, you know what I mean? It's just like, or some people like will do that and then not even do anything in that field. So it's like, now you've gone to school for 4 years.
Wasted money.
For what, And it's just like, you don't even plan on using that degree. And I know sometimes in a sense people fall into careers that they weren't necessarily like meaning to, and like it could still like, they still be happy, there are people like I know who majored in painting, but their BFA ended up being in photography,
Right,
and now
right.
they're doing theater. But it's like, in the grand scheme of things, they're still doing art and they're still happy, and doing that major still informed, because painting, you know, can be performative in a sense.
Right.
So like it can inform other things or whatever. But you know, take your path. Don't take a path that someone else has laid out for you in a sense to make someone else happy, like parents and things like that. Like, do what makes you happy. Don't get caught up in the time frame that it takes you to get there. You know, and I know friends who, you know, have been in school for, you know, 6 years or whatever, in a sense or whatever, because, you know, you have to figure stuff out, and it's better to take a break to figure things out and get back to it or whatever than to just continue living in this cycle of unhappiness because you're just trying to get it done because society has told you you got to do this and the third.
Right.
In a sense, like, you've been traveling, like, you've been out here.
Yeah.
And you clearly have been living your best life. You started this
Literally.
podcast, you know, and it's just like, if you got an idea and you want to try something, do that shit.
Yeah.
And, you know, if it doesn't work out, whatever, you tried it. That's what's important.
Exactly.
And that is, now you know whether or not you're going to love it, you're going to hate it, whether or not you want to continue with it or you're not going to continue with it. But you would have never known that if you wouldn't have tried it in the first place,
Right.
you know? Like, we have one life to live. You know, if you want to, you know, just do what you want to do.
That's a good way to end this off.
Yeah.
All right. Is there anything else you want them to know, like your social media accounts or anything like that?
Yeah.
Websites?
So website, www.ambern4.com. That is N as in Nicole. For those who know me, my name is Amber Nicole Ford. So I use my middle initial to kind of, I guess you can say, differentiate me of all the other Amber Fords out there. So yeah, website www.ambern4.com. Instagram is ambern.ford.com or .ford or .ford. And if you want to email me, my email address is on my website, or you can just hit me up at studio.ambern4.com. If you are looking for pictures or you want to be a part of a project, I'm always looking for models. Definitely hit me up for sure.
For sure. Well, I'd like to thank you for stopping by today. I really appreciate it. Definitely learned a lot of knowledge, a lot of wisdom today. Definitely. Like she said, follow her on all social media. Check out her website. Check out her gallery. Check out everything, because it's beautiful, y'all. And she's definitely taking off. Literally. Actually, she's already out of here now. But I'd like to thank you for coming by. I really appreciate it, though.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
You already know. All right, ladies, gentlemen, boys and girls, thank you for watching or listening to Lavish Journey Podcast. As always, we inspire, create, and we spread greatness. We out of here.
Bye.
Hey. Can I take a quick picture real quick? I'm just going to screenshot it.
Oh, yeah, that's fine.
All right, we good.